Thanks a lot for accepting to come for this podcast. First, I'd like you to introduce yourselves. I'll start with you, Clara.
Nice to meet you. So I'm Clara, I'm from France. Actually, I'm a student in geopolitics and cybersecurity. And I have an Instagram, TikTok account about these subjects and soon on YouTube.
Sylwia?
Hi, hello everyone. I am a tech specialist. I was studying computer science and I was working as a developer, game programmer. I was leading courses for women in tech. And about 2 years ago, I decided to become a tech journalist and a writer. But I write horror thriller books not related to tech. That's my biggest passion.
Very nice. And you, Vincenzo?
Hi everyone, I'm Vincenzo Tiani, Italian, but I've been in Brussels for almost 9 years actually, 9 years. I work in a law firm, an Italian law firm. I represent it here in Brussels called Panetta, where I also produce and host our podcast relating to tech topics. I'm doing a PhD here in Brussels at BUB with the Brussels Privacy Hub, and I'm teaching at university, data regulation. And I'm also write for Italian journals about explaining what DigiConnect does, mostly daily, and trying to explain European digital politics to Italy.
So our session is about the Digital Services Act, also known as DSA. And we heard a presentation just before this session on where it all started in different sort of timelines and where we are today with lots of designated online platforms, search engines. What is maybe the main takeaway you take from the session of this afternoon?
Who starts?
Ladies
first.
Clara.
Okay. I found it very interesting because I'm not very low knowledge, I don't have it, but I'm interested in it because it's very customer and user centered, so I'm one of them. And I was very interested in how they presented, how the customer was at the center of this initiative, and also what were the values that motivated them. And especially against some powerful lobbies or states. So it was really interesting to hear all of that, the process and everything.
Sylwia?
I think that DSA is very interesting and important topic, and we should spend here 15 hours, not 15 minutes, but shortly. In my opinion, the most important part is about our rights related to live in a digital world, live on social media, using social media, because it's a huge part of our life. And since before DSA, we didn't feel completely safe there, because we never known when we get a ban, when someone ban our profile, and when we lost our account, and if it's our place of job, we are influencer, it's really dangerous. But from today, the most interesting part for me was part about smaller platforms, because when we say about DSA, we often talk about social media and big platforms, but DSA regulate smaller magazines, blogs, everyone who has a website. And I am a website developer, and I think it is really important that now we should take more responsibility for not only what we make, but for what our readers are making on our place in the world, in the digital world.
And you, Vincenzo?
So about the DSA, what I really liked, and I think it's really a bravo to the European Commission, is the risk assessment. Back in 2017-18, I was doing an internship in an NGO. We were dealing with the fact that many member states were issuing some laws, trying to regulate social media especially, and the spread of misinformation and illegal content. The fact is that some content cannot be considered properly illegal. Think about fake news or hate speech, where the limit is really blurred. And but the fact is that some countries, some member states were regulating at the national level, asking social media platforms to remove an illegal content within 48 hours. Otherwise they will have faced a fine of 50 million euros, something like that. So even if 50 million could be, let's say, nuts for a big platform, still it can be quite complex to, besides the fine, really, to assess if something is illegal, because the fact that if you remove something which is illegal, which you think is illegal but is not clearly legal, of course, then the person could appeal and so on. So imagine that for millions of users can be very complex. And so the idea of the risk assessment, so adding new layer for big platforms, meaning that, we already have the e-commerce directive for the illegal content, which is clearly legal, fine. But what about the things that are made on the platform, through my platform, if I'm the owner, but are not clearly legal, but can lead to a misuse of the platform. We are approaching to European elections, that's the clear example. And the fact that these platforms also have the means to do it, the resources, to say, okay, every year we try to find out, we analyze what happens on our platforms, we analyze what are the risks, even for fundamental rights, for democratic process, the public debate, proper public debate. I think it's really a new element that's really step forward in the new kind of legislative approach that hopefully will be copy-pasted by other major countries that normally started trying to, let's say, watering down what we do here in Europe, and then after a year they see they have the same problem that are not solved, and then they just copy-paste what we do. So please feel free to copy-paste what we do here in a digital regulation.
One thing which struck me, and I'd like also to have the views of everyone, was a question you asked, and in particular it was be careful when it comes to age verification and how this is looked at, because in the wrong hands this can be a tool of oppression. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So during our session, a colleague said, I don't understand why we don't implement age verification to all the major platforms, so from social media to porn websites and so on. And I understand it, but I have a legal background, so and sometimes we also need to not just think as a European. So we are approaching to European elections, which are very democratic. We live in a democratic country, in a democratic union, with respect for fundamental rights. So we give a lot of stuff for granted, which is not the case for many other countries in the world. And we need to remind that these platforms, most of the platforms we were talking about, are global platforms. So when technically, at the technological level, you open the door to something new, which can be, the obligation to provide ID when you access a certain service, then in these problematic countries, let's say less democratic, I don't want to exaggerate, but the problem is that once they think it's possible, technically speaking, those countries will ask the same to this platform, and they cannot deny that if they want to still operate in those countries. Meaning that in some countries, watching porn, for example, could be illegal. If you're gay, for example, you watch gay content, it could be illegal, you could be arrested or condemned to death, even worse. So it's really important to strike the right balance. I'm a privacy professional, so I know in those years, GDPR stops innovation, GDPR is a burden. But actually it's a way, because here, of course, it's important to strike the balance within data protection, because in order to identify someone, we need to, someone ask for biometric identification, or you need to provide your ID, and other rights and other needs. There's a way So it's true that now for platforms it's complex because there's no clear way to identify people. And avoiding, let's say, and respecting data minimization requirement of GDPR. So I need to retain and process only the data necessary. Because also it's a matter of responsibility. What happens if I retain the ID and then I have a data breach? And I didn't want to retain an ID. I don't care about it. I'm not the bank, for example. So yeah, it's important to strike the right balance, think about all the fundamental rights, thinking also that cybersecurity is an issue, that our digital literacy is an issue, and it's quite low so far. But also there are many fundamental rights, and we live in a global place, and we are also responsible for what happens in other places.
I think fundamental rights is a very important issue of DSA. What do you think, Sylwia?
Yeah, the fundamental rights are really important. I don't know what to add because he said everything about age verification. It is really important that thanks to DSA, every one of us can say what's legal, and be yourself on the web. I think it is really important because when I speak with some colleagues that are not into tech, they say that, okay, it's next act that take off our rights because it's more of regulations. No, DSA makes our rights more visible and help us, especially in big platforms like Facebook, Instagram, etc., to fight for our rights, because it really helped in, for example, unnecessary ban, because the reason portals are banning us are often not obvious. Often are related because someone clicked, because he hated us, so clicked ban, 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 and Instagram said, okay, we can ban you. Now everything have to be checked, and have to be tell us why we are banned. And I see on my profile that it is really working. So the most important for call it normal people out of tech is that the DSA help us in fighting for our rights on the web, not giving us more limits.
And in your case?
I do agree with all you said, and I think that when we are talking about fundamental rights on platforms, I'm immediately thinking about the right to have access to an information that has not been manipulated or cut or anything. Like, I know it's really hard to say that now because we all have bias. Everyone cannot access the same amount of information based on where they are. But I think this is why the DSA is very important, because disinformation, which is different from misinformation because of its intent, it's like, I think, one of the biggest stake of this century, and even more with the generative AI. And this is why there's really a need to have clear laws about that for all the citizens. And with the upcoming elections from all over the world, it's really important.
Maybe I'll start with you, Sylwia. There's only one last question, unfortunately, left. What do you think is the most important element for you when it comes to DSA, either from a user perspective, so as a consumer of social media or big online platforms, or as a tech journalist?
As a user, the safety. I think the safety, because thanks to DSA, I feel that my digital place on platform, but this place is more mine. This is more place where I can say what I want if it's legal, I can feel free, and I don't have to check every word I say because I can be banned. Yeah, so I think in perspective user, it is most important for me. In perspective of tech, I think the most important part is working with this information. That is perspective user too, but it really helps me and other journalists and tech specialists to choose content which is good, not which is a lie. And we see in statistics that Gen Z, younger people, are using social media. Are using social media to look for an information. They're not using search engines. So it is really important that social media have to work, thanks to DSA, with this information.
Same question for you, Clara.
I think for me it's like the how the citizen can fully understand how important the DSA is, because like I think in the public opinion they might think that when there's sanctions for a platform or they risk a ban, it's to undermine the influence, or I don't know, like it's personal, but it's for the users. And if the platforms, they don't comply with what is right for us, like it's not like they shouldn't be on our territories, but or they shouldn't be available. It's just like there's what we talked about previously, fundamental rights, and it's very important to to have this for everyone, like everyone to play the same game with the same rules.
Thank you. And for you, the most important aspect of DSA, or the one which?
So I agree that for the handling with the misinformation, especially with the AI and deepfakes, which we discussed during the AI section, I think the fact that the platforms are directly asked to be involved in the risk assessment, it's major. It's a point for us, let's say, to be more protected. On the other side, I think the huge step forward is really the right to have an explanation. When I understand that, of course, there are teams of people, of course, in the moderation of content, but still a lot of stuff is done by AI automatically. But the fact that now we are, we can ask for an explanation why actually my content was removed. Please tell me why, which part of the terms and condition I violated. It's very important, because otherwise the risk is self-censorship. I know that this image, this text will be banned, so I will not post it. So I think that's a good part.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.